My name is Reema. I work at Netflix, and I'm really happy to be here today. Really excited to just see a lot of beautiful faces here. This is a really beautiful room, to be honest. I'm overwhelmed with joy. My focus is on diversity and inclusion, and I really work with a lot of really amazing creatives to really think about the hands that touch our work, what we do here, what we do at Netflix, working with our partners, and how we can really authentically represent all the work that we do. I work with an amazing group of people that you'll connect with today, and some who aren't here, and have the privilege to be able to work together to build a program like this. And so I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about it more today. Access is it's something we've been thinking about for a very long time, some people even more than me. So you'll get to know a lot of those people today. We're going to talk about ourselves, our lives, our journey, the industry, and this program, and answer a lot of your questions. Does that sound cool? Cool, okay. So first I want to get started by introducing you to this amazing panel of people who have really been advocates and instrumental in a lot of this process. So first we'll start off with you, Kenny. If I can ask all of you, share your name, who you are, what you do, and something that people wouldn't know about you if they just looked at you. Something interesting.
I am co-founder of a creative agency called Gravelous. And I have to say, so when I got up this morning, I thought about this panel and I was trying to picture you guys. I was just like, you know, anytime you do these things, you feel this just amount of massive pressure to just say the right thing. So, so in my brain, I was like, okay, I know what I'm gonna say. But in the end, it came down to me absolutely needing to say this one thing. Because I was like, if I say nothing else through the whole thing, or if I mumble whatever, I at least need to say one thing that's super important and really clear. So I just have to say this. We're here today because of an obvious disparity in our industry. And the reality is you have the biggest streaming company on the planet, Netflix. You have the most amazing, revered art school, Otis. And then you also have a leader for an agency that is considered one of the biggest in our industry, all willing to do something about it. And they're willing to do something about it when there are no protesting in the streets. And for me, that lets me know that this is coming from an incredible, amazing, and authentic place. And this program will change lives. And I am just so incredibly honored and incredibly just fortunate to be here to be at the beginning of this. And I just had to say that.
Thank you, McKenny. I appreciate that. Kenny comes in hot, and I love it. And
just want to get it out there. Just want to get it out.
But who are you?
Oh, so I'm English, just in case you didn't know. So, you know, I'm, like I said, I'm from London. I have been living in Los Angeles for a long time, longer than probably a lot of you have been born. I've been living in LA for 30 years. And I started off in the music industry, Def Jam Records, and I've been doing creative entertainment for the last, say, since 2004. And yeah, I'm just super excited to be here.
Sweet, thank you. Dawn.
I'm Dawn Bailey. I'm an Otis alumna. I graduated here in 1985, which is well before any of you were a blink in your parents' eyes. I want to say that Otis changed my life. I'm also on the board of trustees here, but I would be nowhere if it wasn't for Otis, because I was an underprivileged kid and I came here on scholarship. And that is one of the reasons that this idea came, is that I know Otis changes lives, and I know that this will make a difference to you guys. I went to art school, and I was able, I grew up in Hollywood, and for me an art gallery was Hollywood Boulevard. I saw movie posters on the street. That's what an art gallery was, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make movie posters. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but that's what I wanted to do. If you saw my high school yearbook, it said, "What do you want to do?" It said, "I wanted to do movie posters. It's my passion." So the two things for me are movie posters and Otis and Kenny. He's a really great friend. And so excited for you guys to be part of it. I can talk about it forever, so find me after if you want to talk more.
Aaron, you're up.
Okay, my name is Aaron Jones. I'm a senior marketing director at Netflix. So opposite, I didn't grow up in Hollywood. I grew up in a small, working class family in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, which is 45 minutes north of Pittsburgh. Had no idea what entertainment was, but was a big entertainment fan. And was I don't know how to get in there, but I'm gonna figure it out. I did at some point. So I'm glad to be here, and hopefully can help you guys navigate this crazy world of entertainment.
Thanks for being here. Let's go, Andy.
All right. Hello, testing. Okay. My name is Andy Lerma. I am a design lead at Netflix. That means I work on the internal creative team and get the opportunity to work on amazing campaigns like Ozarks, Narcos, and just fun projects like that. And we just did. So it's exciting and fun. I grew up in the Valley. My mom was a teacher, my dad was like a machinist, so no industry relation at all. It was real interesting. I was like, I think I want to work in the entertainment business. And they're like, okay, but we don't know anyone. So, I made that passion to figure out my way, as Aaron did, to find my way into getting into the industry somehow, some way or another, which I will get into it later when we get called on next again. So, but that's it for now, I guess, right?
Yep. Thanks, Andy. Take it away, Mark.
Hi everyone, my name is Mark Manrose. I'm the Dean of Extension here at Otis. Thank you so much for everybody coming and for everybody being on the panel with us today. I spent a number of years building academic programs for big companies and individuals, and we never built anything quite like this. But I'm very excited to echo what Kenny said. This will absolutely change people's lives and will help give them the leg up to enter this industry in a way that frankly hasn't been done before. So it's incredibly excited to meet all of you and for the work that we've been doing on this for multiple years to make this a reality today. So welcome everyone.
Thank you also. I'm sure I've been doing a little bit of research on this, but Access, like I said, took a lot of intention and thought, right? We wanted to really think about a holistic program. So it's an entertainment certificate program, which combines classroom, right, here at Otis, understanding the classroom instruction. We embedded a lot of networking into it, right? We're gonna be able to connect this cohort with a lot of the industry, agencies, our partners, people who really care and wanna make space. Then there's an apprenticeship program because we wanna give you actual paid, real experience to go through that, and mentorship along the way. So we're really intentional with it, and a lot of it has to do with us knowing the journey that it takes to get into this industry. So we're gonna learn a little bit about that now. So Kenny, I wanna start with you. You shared a little bit about your journey, but you've had quite a career, right? And now you own your own agency, and there's a lot of steps in between, right? There's a lot of people here who are just starting and just thinking about this. So
Sure.
how did you even know what your passions were? It sounds like you changed a couple times and got to know yourself even more.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear about your journey.
Okay, so my journey to start, like I was saying before, I'm from London originally, and basically when I grew up in London after high school, for some reason, I'm not really sure, but there was always a job available at a bank. I don't know why, but that was the job that was available. You could be an intern bank teller. So I had a cousin who was actually a designer for magazines, and I remember just going into his office and seeing, this was before computers, so I'd see drawing boards, all these things, and it's just it felt so alive as an industry, and I was just there's just no way I'm gonna do the bank thing. So I ended up going to, thankfully, getting into art school. I got into art school, and then I moved to New York. My dad lived in New York, and then I had an interesting time. So I moved to New York, and as New York does, New York definitely teaches you things about yourself. So basically, I think between 1987 and 1989, I think I got fired like 4 times total. And I remember my dad asking me like, do you sure you want to do design? Because it was like after like my 4th sort of actually 2 was actually technically a let go. So I guess still a firing, but technical.
If it makes you feel better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes you feel better. And I remember him saying that, and I still was kind of sure I wanted to do design, but I realized that I had this like eureka moment. I hadn't been working for about 6 months, and I actually was playing a lot of pool. You know, like all of a sudden I was like, well, I don't want to become a pool shark hustler, so I really need to figure out what I want to do. And I looked at the 2 things that I loved, and the 2 things that I loved was music and movies. Those are the 2 things that I was absolutely passionate about. And I'm in New York, and I just look at a CD, and sort of that's where it began. I looked at the CD, I looked at the back of the CD, and I started pulling up record companies. And actually, I will tell this one part of the story because I think it's really important and it actually connects to this program in a way. All the jobs that I had before were designing things like apple juice and applesauce, things that I weren't interested in. Obviously, I got fired 4 times, so I obviously wasn't very good either. But I remember going in, I finally got this interview with this record company, and I'd go in and I'd show them all this like applesauce stuff. And he looks at me and he says, you know we design album covers here. And I was like, yeah, no, I know. I was like, that's what I want to do. And he's like, yeah, but you're not showing me you want to design an album cover. So that was sort of the best thing I'd ever been told, because he then told me to go away and design album covers and come back. And the reality was I did that, and for the 2 weeks I did that, it was the most rewarding time of design, like maybe even to this day, that I've had. I was just like enamored by it. And here was the fun part, I could not get a meeting back. It was almost like it was a miracle that I got a meeting in the first place. Couldn't get a meeting back, couldn't get a meeting back. Finally, I ended up seeing another one of my CDs, which was Def Jam Recordings, which at the time were distributed by Sony. And I ended up getting me in there, and I still brought my applesauce stuff, because that was the stuff that was like professional. But I did bring the other portfolio that I made the covers, and I showed the applesauce stuff, and the guy was like, you know, thank you, appreciate it. And then I was like, oh, no, wait, I have one other thing. And I showed those covers. And like, those covers are how I actually got my job. And like, that's what started my career working at Def Jam. So then I went to Def Jam from 89 to 95. Then I went for MCA from there. And, you know, I got to work on really amazing covers. I designed Notorious B.I.G.'s Ready to Die album cover. I designed all the Roots album covers, Mary J. Blige. And, you know, my career changed basically from that one moment. And then in 2004, we started making the transition into doing TV and film, which we thought, to be honest, because we were doing a lot of music, we thought it was going to be an easy transition, but it actually wasn't. It was just kind of 2 different worlds. So we started slowly and surely making our way there. I think we concentrated very much on our work more than anything else. We didn't concentrate on the fact that we were like one of the only Black-owned agencies. We didn't concentrate on the fact that you know, we didn't try to position ourselves in a way. We just tried to position ourselves as people that could do interesting work. And thankfully, you know, that was able to put us in good stead. And we, you know, started building relationships and started making our way in the industry.
Thanks for sharing. I love you sharing, like, you know, when you weren't doing what you loved, you got let go of fire because it didn't feel right, like, right? Like, you put the intention into the things that you care about, right? And I think that's why we're pushing this so much. Is like, if you aren't passionate about this, we want to make space for it, because we don't always grow up knowing that there's space to, you know, if you love drawing, to be able to be, there's a space for you in the world. And so I love that you made it. Dawn, like you said, you went to Otis, and now you're a founding partner at your agency. I mean, that's huge. You've you know, had quite a journey. What do you think helped you most in your career?
When going to Otis provided a really amazing foundation, and it was before computers. And the one opportunity, it's kind of similar to what Kenny was talking about. I always knew I wanted to do movie posters. We were in one class, and I learned how to draw, I learned how to paint, learned a lot about typography, I learned all the basics of all the things, but I didn't know how to put it together to get to do movie posters. So I had, in that class, I did a painting of the poster for Harold and Maude. It was my idea for that. But I did it poster sized. And I couldn't photograph it, so I had to lug it around with me. So I went to Seiniger Advertising, which is where I got my first job. And Tony was looking through my paintings, and then he saw that, and he said, "You did this?" I was like, "Yeah, did that." But I was a pretty hardcore LA punk rocker back in the day, and I had my boots, bandanas, chains, ripped up clothes, and he was looking at me, and it wasn't that, this is the 80s, it wasn't like now, when it's a little sanitized, but anyway, he said, "Kid, I'm gonna make you a star. How much money do you need to live?" And I was like, $100 a week, and he'd kiss me on my forehead. And he hired me on the spot. But if I didn't have that painting with me, I don't know what I would be doing now. And I think it's the one thing is the same thing. It's like, I was good at the painting and whatnot, the other kinds of homework assignments. But it took a place like Otis that gave me the chance, a professor, to say, "Yeah, okay, go ahead and do your thing."
Yeah.
And so I feel like I was really lucky and was taught, to say what I needed to do.
That's awesome. It sounds like you got a lot of the right type of guidance and support being here into knowing which direction you could take.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody actually told somebody "I'm gonna make you a star." So thank you for sharing that experience. And
Let's get more than that.
right? And I'm glad you shared the time, because definitely don't let anybody kiss you on the forehead if they offer you a job.
Not this
A word of advice.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. But yeah, I think to your point, right? That type of guidance and direction is so important. It's going into this industry blind is very hard. So having the space like here to be able to guide you in that space, I think was so instrumental to us, especially wanting to build a program that helped you all holistically too. Aaron, you studied advertising and PR, and now you're a marketing director at Netflix. If I didn't know much about this industry, it would feel like a really linear path, and it sounds like it makes a lot of sense. But I'd love to hear more about what that path was like and what type of obstacles you encountered while trying to figure out where you were going to go.
Yeah, definitely. It does seem linear. It's not as linear. It's a little different from the design background. So I went to school for advertising, public relations at Penn State. And part of that reason was because I wanted to be in entertainment, but I just had no idea how to get in entertainment. So I was like, "Oh, advertising seems like the way in there." And then through there, I think within the advertising industry and the entertainment industry, I think the industry as a whole does they like to pigeonhole you into different areas or different buckets along the way. So as I figured out my career path, I was like, okay, I can be in the creative side or I can be on the media side of things. And I chose the media side more because it paid more in New York City at 22 years old. So I went to a media agency and did that work. But instead of getting pigeonholed into that piece, I was always there's a creative sense to me. There's something deep down that wants me to be a little bit more on the creative side of things. And so I made a point to always make sure I'm working at least with clients that are thinking creative first. And usually the entertainment accounts were those ones. Or agencies, and choosing those agencies that had innovative and creative perspective first over the spots and dots of just regular type of traditional advertising. So that was the first kind of pivot of okay, I can't let the way that these paths go mold me. I need to carve out my own path as I'm going forward. So worked at HBO was one of my first clients at a media agency side of things for 5 or 6 years. Did stuff on True Blood or Boardwalk Empire. Eastbound and Down, that are all off the air right now, but they were really great shows at one point. And then moved over to the History Channel, A&E Networks, History Channel Lifetime, and A&E to bring them scripted programming from a media standpoint. So as a media agency, did that work, but always constantly trying to figure out how to get out of that box. I got the call to go to Netflix to come to LA. worked on a regional strategy team that was more focused. 80% of it was on the media side, and 20% was audience work. And from there, I was like, okay, so I believe in certain audiences, especially the Black audience. Like, I believe representation matters, and started to craft my own path there from that 20% of what I was doing, of working on a Black task force and digging into that area, and then crafting out an advertising campaign. And Netflix is a great company to work for, because if you have an idea, they will go forward and and see it through, even if you may not be on that particular side of things. So we built this a great campaign called A Great Day in Hollywood that was all about our Black creators and talent in front of and behind the screen. And I got to lead that from start to scratch, from creative to the media angle. And so I got that bug of doing more creative work, and I thought, okay, let me round out my career a little bit more here and move over to our, what we call it the creative marketing team, or title marketing team, that handles a lot of the marketing promotion, works with great people like Andy to bring these titles to life off of our Netflix products, so the out of home that you see down the street, or the stunts that you see happening throughout the world on big titles. So I think that's my windy kind of path into this area. Yeah.
What was the hardest part, like, as you kept making those transitions?
Hardest parts? I mean, the hardest part is working in New York City at 20, or even LA at 20 years old, and like not having like a dollar, and trying to like make that work, and talk your parents into they were like, you're going to be a doctor or lawyer if you're going to college. I'm like, no, I'm not. This is what I want to do. So keeping them focused.
That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think my parents still don't know what I do. But they're just like, oh, you work at Netflix? Okay, we approve now. Like, that's it. Like, otherwise they have no clue what I would do. So, and I think people underestimate like the how that can take a toll, right? Because like, you see the vision, you know your passion, you want to see it through, and everyone else is like, what? You draw? Like, or whatever it is. And so I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Andy, same with you. Like, you said you start from athlete to designer. Tell me more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a very unique path where I was an athlete and an artist as a kid, and the coaches were like, you're not going to make a living doing that thing, so why don't you just be a pro athlete? And I was like, yeah. Okay, so until I got hurt my senior year, I had to find that plan B, because I was like, oh, this pro athlete thing is really not going to happen, because I guess I'm not that skilled as I thought, or they thought. So I knew I had a passion for the industry. I knew that there was love in it, but I just knew that art wouldn't make me money, because I was listening to my coach. So I found my way into film and television, and I wanted to be a cameraman. That was like where I wanted to be. And I was like, yeah, that's where I really want to be. And then after getting to that position, it wasn't feeling, I was chasing like the paycheck rather than my passion. And then 2 years in, after working on sitcoms, and I was realizing like this isn't really what I want to do. I took an internship at an agency and said, this is what I want to do. I fell in love with Photoshop, and I was like, this is where I want to be. This is like, I don't care how much it pays. I'll do it for free, and I'll go back to school, which I did. The rest is like, here we are 25 years later, and it wasn't, I always say it wasn't easy to get there, because in this business you're told no quite a few times, but I use that as motivation to really kind of get to that next level, or to look, I know I can do it, even though I don't have a background, I'll just try harder. And so I think that kind of goes a long way when you continue, and just like, I always tell my daughter, I say, just follow what you're in love with, and the money will always follow. Just follow what makes you happy inside, and that's what I did. I followed my own advice, and it worked. And now I get to work for a company that actually, like Aaron said, when you have an idea, you throw it out there, like, that's great, let's do it. Which it's normally not like that at most companies, but at these companies that Don and Gravis work at, you have that ability to actually create ideas from the ground up. And so it's an awesome opportunity here. So I'm just so happy to share my experience and give you a little bit of background what I do now, so, yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're a designer now.
Yes, I am a design lead at Netflix, and I make product art and marketing art. When product art is what you see on your phone or on your TV, and you see little squares, you see the art, or expands into different canvases. We generate suites for entire campaigns, and we also work on the 360 campaigns, which is the stuff you see on Sunset, also you see on billboards or bus sides, or even in theaters too now. So it's exciting. I guess that's what drove me, is when I was like, wow, that could be my piece up there. I love that. So I remember the first day I got a billboard, I was like, I'm gonna take a photo in front of it. I'm sure we all do, right? Because we get excited because it's a big deal. And that's where I was like, this has me. It's the bug that I want, and I had to have it, and I'm still excited. 25 years later, I feel like it's my first day of work every day, and that's where it's at. You know, that's where happiness is. So, and staying grateful. That's it for sure. Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing.
Thank you.
It's really interesting to hear how you all, like, it came from a feeling, and how it's manifested into your passions, into your career. And it's not an easy road, right? Like, none of you made it seem like it is, but there's ways that you can have support along the way, right? And guidance, and I think that's what's most important. And that's what we hope Access can do too. So Mark, I'd love to ask you a little bit, like, a lot of intention went into this. Can you share a little bit more about the program? How does it work? We spent a lot of time, right, trying to build this, but can you give a little more context?
For sure, absolutely. So for those of you that aren't aware, this is a certificate program, a non-credit certificate program, and that can mean a lot of different things in higher education, but most commonly, and in this situation, what it means is it's a very specific, targeted educational program designed to transition individuals into the workforce and or advance their career. So that's what we're doing here educationally, and that's what the Access program is. So it's a 20-month experience, 2-0. You'll have 14 months of full-time academic work. That means you're taking classes here on Otis's campus Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, with the normal breaks for holidays, etc. But it's 14 straight months of an academic program full-time, and then a 6-month paid internship where you're working full-time. So the academic portion is to prepare you to be able to succeed in that apprenticeship, because there's nothing to simulate the actual doing the work day in, day out. So we're here to have that support system for you in place so you can succeed in your apprenticeship. And when that culminates at the end of that 20 months, you'll be a graduate of the Access program. So that is just functionally how it is structured and set up.
How much does the program cost?
The program is free. If there are questions on that, the program is free. The main thing with this is that there's no fees for courses, fees, or technology. Every student in the program will get a laptop, the necessary software, hardware access, student supplies that you would need in an instructional manner, etc. All that is covered in this program, because this whole point of this program is to help diversify this industry, and so we're not going to do that with strings attached with fees and payments down the road. This really is the model of higher education to transition people into workforce in a debt-free environment, and that's what we're looking to create here with the Access program.
Thanks, Mark. Can we just give a round of applause real quick for everyone sharing their stories? There's going to be a lot more opportunity to be able to connect with us. There are some other Netflix folks, if you can stand up or raise your hand. Just want people to see where you all are. If there's anybody who's willing to talk and share some support and insight. But let's get to some Q&A. I'm sure you could have questions for anyone here, questions about the program. Let's get started.
The initial cohort, we're planning on having 18 students, 1/8 will be in the initial cohort.
Do you guys have any information on animation in this program, or any specific field in art, but particularly animation?
Well, we're having a few different tracks in the program, but I don't know, Don or Kenny, if you want to speak to the specific coursework that we'll be covering.
The kind of animation that we're focusing on would be motion graphics. So it's not if you're looking to make your own series, that sort of thing. That's not what we're doing. We're specifically in marketing, advertising. So there's animation in terms of making content to support selling promoting, you know, possibly an animated series, but there is a track of motion graphics and editing.
Did that help answer your question? Okay.
As for the different programs that or branches that we can go into for the illustration and animation students, specifically what kind of projects are we going to be working on for this branch we're going to? Because I can see we're students that are being accepted into a program, but I understand it's marketing work, right?
Yes.
So specifically, if one of our projects is going to be like, we have a project of making a new promo, we'll be doing animation for that promo?
Yes, so Walter here is also an alum of Otis, and he's head of illustration at BLT, which is where the company that I work at. And you can talk to him a bit about it, but let me explain what happens in illustration in our company. So usually we'll get a script, and then we'll come up with ideas for possibly a photo shoot. And those ideas need to be sketched out. So we will block out all kinds of ideas for a poster that we can imagine and we don't have the assets to build. We'll come up with a suite of poses that need to be done. We'll prepare things for photo shoots. Or even in the case of we'll come up with ideas for final posters that will need to be animated or drawn. A lot of times we do what some people call living one sheets, and those need to be animated. So there's all kinds of opportunities. And I really, if you're an illustration student, I encourage you to speak to Walter afterwards.
Would there also be any possible connections to the ones on story art? Or
We're specifically dealing with content that's already coming from studios. We're not coming up with original content. Yeah, I just.
Could you please go into detail in terms of the editing track? Kind of what can we expect in terms of projects, in terms of, you know, like maybe trailers for upcoming shows, that kind of things, reels?
So the first year would be learning to make sure that you're proficient in Premiere. And then the kinds of projects would be same thing. It would be trailers, it would be social spots, it would be all the kinds of storytelling that would help promote the film property. So there's so many different ways to help spread the word and to participate in the culture. I feel like every film is a cultural experience, and there's different ways to share in that, and you'll be getting the technical proficiency in doing that, because we're also looking to make sure that you would be Adobe certified in Premiere. So the technical aspects will be covered, and then you'll use those skills to work on films, to make a cut down, to make a 30-second spot, a 10-second social spot, a variety of different things. And you'll have a mentor from the industry who will help you along the way.
Yeah, like from my world of like seeing, when we go and brief an agency on content, we're usually getting like 3 or 5 different types of ways into a narrative trailer. There's so many different ways you can go about it, and depending on, you know, what that brief is and like what the feeling is that you want from it, you go down a bunch of different paths. So it's good to have that like skill set of like, what are the things you need to do to like make it a horror-esque or bring in contemporary music to the piece a little bit more. So hopefully this program will get the basics of that.
But to also, I'm sorry. Okay. But also learning how to speak to different audiences. A lot of films need to have different approaches to bring in different audiences. And you want to learn how to storytell in such a way that you can hit different interests.
I think one of the unique things I think about the program that you guys will find, it's very specific to our industry. That's sort of the point of the program, is that we're exposing the industry that we do. So whether it's trailers or posters or social graphics or motion graphics, you know, sketching, photography, we're really truly exposing that side of the industry. So everything that you do will end up coming back to that. So, you know, that's why, for instance, there isn't necessarily a oh, like creating an animated show. It's like everything will cut back to marketing of a show. Because the point of it is at the end of that 6 months, like before that 6 months happens, the 14 months is basically preparing for you to go into an agency. And we want to prepare you to get into that agency and be ready for it and actually win. And the North Star of this whole thing is that by the time you're done with that 6 months, that you're actually in a position. And that would be what I would consider the success story of the program.
Right. So you don't show up with applesauce,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. So you don't just show up with applesauce and say, here, what do you think? It's like, we make movie posters. Oh, I'm trying, please help. So that's the goal. That's the goal for everyone in the program, is that you end the program with a job, like in our industry.
So I do know that it's going to be, 18 people who are chosen, but I guess 2 questions. One would be, what's the criteria to choose these 18 people? And 2, well, I guess just like looking at you guys now, is it going to be you guys making that decision or someone who we don't see?
There's Oz somewhere. Oz is making the decision.
No, I could jump on that quickly. Some of the people here are looking to help me making that decision, other administrators, Netflix folks as well. We'll be forming a committee to go through everyone. Don, Kenny, please expound on what I'm about to say. But I do know that the one thing that we're looking for is we don't want to put too fine a point on this is exactly what your application should look like. I know the main thing that I keep getting in conversations with people, the people who are making this decision, is they're looking for driven, creative people who want to be in this field. That's really a big thing. Because this is not education just for education's sake. This is really geared to get you a job in this field. And if this is where you see yourself, as individuals on this stage have talked about their journey in life, we want to be able to help you get to where you want to go. But with that, it's a lot of creativity, a lot of ambitious driven people. So the specifics of what a good application looks like, I think could look like a lot of things, but you want to be able to get across that you are a driven, creative individual who is looking to succeed in this industry. I would say big picture.
Yeah, I would also add, we pick specific questions and how to express yourself so that we can get to know you, so we can see your side of it. And it feels like some of the questions were open, it was on purpose. It's giving you the space to show who you are in your own creative way, and so that's the intention. And that's just my 2 cents.
I would also expound and say, I feel like there needs to be a love for the industry. So, if you're not really into film or TV, then it's probably isn't the right thing. I'm just being honest, it's sort of like you kind of have to be in the world, kind of going back to my whole story of we need to feel that this is something that you actually want to do, because it's very, it's super important that this works. Obviously, Netflix, I'm just being real right now, Netflix are coming in, they're bringing their dollars into this, people are committing to this, and it has to work. So we need the right people in the program for it to work, so they can continue to work. So they can be year 2 and year 3 and year 4 and year 5, and those lives that change can then change other lives. It's we need people that are driven, not only, but actually want to be in the industry. One thing that Andy said, and I'm sure Dawn will sort of co-sign on this, I'm still excited when I see a poster that we've done, outside the billboard, right? And we've been working on this for we've had an agency for 23 years, but I'm still excited, or I'm excited if I see, someone in a movie theater and someone looking at a poster that we've worked on. So it's it's one of those things where it really is something that almost I would say it, but I would do for free. I'd say it, but I really would. If it's okay, you're not getting paid, but your expenses are covered, would you still do this? Absolutely. So just want to put that out there.
What would you do with a student who is 16, graduating, turning 17 by the time the program would start, when the program says that you have to be 18?
We do need individuals to be 18 years old by September. However, people may have individual circumstances. I would just recommend that you reach out to our office and we can see what we could do with options, but that is an important component of the program.
Hello. Where does the music aspect come into the trailers? Like I know how to use not know how to use, but do it Logic, Pro Tools, or Fruity Loops, like for say like Peaky Blinders new trailer or something like that. Like, is there a part of the program where I would be able to use those skills and like learn how to like make a trailer like the music match up with the you know?
Yeah, that will be part of it. That is part of it. You'll get there.
Andy, do you want to like share how that shows up like when you're doing your work?
Say that one more time.
Like how does music show up when you're doing your work?
Well, music, that's more on the trailer side.
Yep.
In fact, I think we could probably say like it's designer, finisher, trailer editor, and motion designer, I think is what we're trying to achieve here. I think that's what the position of what I think the positions are here for. So I think what you're referencing is like a trailer editor does sound mixing and does sound design within his trailer editing. So that is part of the program, yes, I'd say. So it would just, you would probably go after a trailer editor, basically, yeah.
Thanks for being here. I have a question about marketing. So if all of this is in service to like promotions and things like that for marketing, would you be like doing pitch decks or market research, or what kinds of things would you be working on for that?
So I don't like not so much pitch decks and market research, but we might be going over some of those things because those are the kind of things that we get from clients. So it's sort of, one of the things that will be important that you will learn in the program is you'll sort of learn our role in marketing. So that'll be a big sort of transition for people that just, again, without making the pun, don't have access to this industry. You'll really understand the role of a creative agency, whether it be trailers, whether it be posters, social graphics, whatever that is. You'll really understand sort of what that role is, and you'll be given briefs versus us making briefs. It's more about us actually speaking and answering the brief. That makes sense. Hopefully.
Hello. What is the culture like at like in the industry, or what is it like to work in a place like Netflix?
Well, so industry and Netflix, like either or? So I think we can all answer that, right? Are you looking at me first?
Yeah, I was like Netflix.
Well, we're gonna start with Andy and then work our way down.
We have a thing called Culture Memo, which really kind of goes down bullet points of what it's all about. And I think a lot of our industry and agencies are really following suit with that sort of culture. Hence why we're here and trying to create more diversity really within this business. It's just, and also create awareness too. So I feel like it's a big part of what we're striving to do. So I feel like we're getting there. Yeah. So
one thing I'll say, and I'll be very blunt about it. So when Dawn and I first spoke about the potential of even this thing happening, one of the things that we both aligned on was, number one, we probably could count on both hands how many kids of color came through our doors for internship over the last 20 years. So that's problematic right there. Problem number one. Problem number two is that art school in general is incredibly expensive, and it's very hard to convince parents that it makes sense in regards to a job. So those were two issues right off the bat that we're hoping this program begins to start to solve. One, thankfully for Netflix, taking care of the costs, and two, starting to introduce more kids of color into our industry and having success in the industry so that can then continue to have a domino effect, and it can just grow from there. So I would say, if I'm being incredibly honest, if you really ask about what it's like working in the industry, there's a good chance that when you graduate from this program, you're going to be one of just a few people of color in the agency that you're working at. But hopefully, 10 years from now, that won't be the case, and this is hopefully where it starts.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. This is probably the best info session I've ever attended.
Wow, that's no pressure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is pretty simple and broad. At its best, what does entertainment marketing do?
Erin?
At its best, what does entertainment marketing do?
I'm gonna throw it to Erin.
At its best, I mean, we entertain the world, right? So, I mean, Netflix's vision is to entertain the world overall between all those different titles that you see on our platform. And so, for me, like what marketing does is bringing it to you all so that you all can dive in and understand what Emily in Paris is and give you a vibe there versus Dear White People or Never Have I Ever, looking at the posters in the room right here. Yeah, that's, for me, at its core, that's what, yeah, we want to entertain. And it's fun. It's a fun job overall, but we want to ultimately entertain you all across.
I'd also add too that like, you get this amazing opportunity to help people see themselves in the work that we do, right? Like it's, maybe this is like my diversity and inclusion hat, but right, like how do you get to see those promotional creative and get to say that like the people are authentically represented, the experiences, the story is, and we're staying true to that. And how can you do that right without the right representation in the industry? And so I think something great about it is like you get to be able to see yourself in a lot of the things you do or things that you're passionate about. You get to connect people to stories. And I think that's really beautiful. And when you can be intentional and authentically do that, it feels even better. That's what I'll say.
Hi, can you hear me? So I'm very new to this. Like I'm like brand new out the womb on this whole journey. So when I look at this application, I'm gonna be kind of honest. I don't have really any skills in art or marketing or anything. And so I'm just kind of wondering if you have any advice for me. I do want to apply. I'm like super excited but nervous. Like, do you have any like words of encouragement for someone who has absolutely no skills whatsoever? Because I have met people in this room and they are exceptionally talented, have like a whole list of things they've done, and I didn't have that. And so, like you said, if you want to reach out to people who want to join in and just jump in like a fish and just try to learn how to swim. But it also is very intimidating because look at all the people in this room. Everybody is just stellar. And you come in and you're just kind of like, what do I do? So is there any words of encouragement for people who literally are starting from scratch and just want to learn and just any place that you have any words for applicants?
I mean, I appreciate your vulnerability and being open about that because I can totally understand. I think I felt like that every stage of my career in life. So there's no specific requirement to have experience for this. And when I say that, I know that still doesn't mean anything, right? When you look in the room and you're like, but there's still a lot of people who do, so they'll have a leg up already. And we're not looking for that, right? I will say we're looking for people who care, who are passionate, and who really just want to give their all into this. And I think we're going to be able to really assess like what that means and how that shows up. I would love to give, if you all have advice too there, I want to give you, you know what, let me pause. I have something to say, but I want to hear what you all have to say first. Okay. And I'll come back.
Okay, all right. One of the great things about Otis is that the first year at Otis is a foundation program. That means you don't get to declare your major. And following that example, we designed this program that the first semester, or I don't know what we're going to call it, the first tranche of classes, will be for everybody. And that means everybody's going to take a drawing class, everybody's going to take an editing class, everybody's going to learn how to do a logo, and everybody's going to do some design. And you don't get to choose your track until you've done all that. And so you're going to find your passion, and you might not know what you're good at. You might find out you're a really good sketch artist, but you had no idea because you didn't meet somebody like Walter who's going to show you how it's done. You know, you're going to have a mentor, but you might not even know. And when I came to Otis, I just knew I wanted to do posters, but I didn't have proper art training in high school. So I felt insecure the moment I walked in. It was the same thing, that somehow, thank God they saw something in me. I don't know what they saw, but thank God. But I didn't have anything. I just knew I wanted to do this. I didn't even know how. You know, I didn't know anybody who did it. You know, and I just, you pick up the pieces. You learn a piece of the puzzle, then you apply that, then you find the next piece of the puzzle. And you don't have to know, you have to be driven. And the thing is, and just like Kenny was saying, to be blunt, this is a hard job, and really the people who succeed are the ones with really thick skin, who can deal with the really hard crits, because the work that we're held to a very high standard, as long as you can take the criticism and you can work really, really hard, the pieces will be given to you, here's how you do it. But you may not even know what you want to do, and maybe you do, but the beauty of this program is you'll be exposed to all the different areas of what we do. And you'll find what you're passionate about, and there'll be support. There's going to be mentors, And I would encourage you, if you have a passion for the things that you see, I'm curious what brought you here to this room today, because that's so exciting, and I'm so happy for you and want to see you succeed in it. I'm really curious, if you feel that you don't have the pieces yet, what pieces do you want? What piece can I give you,
Thank you. Quiet as kept, my brother is an actor, and he actually worked on a Netflix film. And one day he brought home some sketches from one of the Netflix, it was a series, from one of the Netflix series, just to have privacy concerns. I'm not going to say what film that was, but it was a Netflix series that did very well. And he brought some of the sketches, and I cried, because I actually do know how to draw a little bit, but it's very basic. But when I saw how passionate the drawings were, they were so elaborate, and you could see like the expression of their eyes and everything. And these were real people that were being drawn, but of course they had, elements of fantasy, but it was incredible. And I remember my brother let me keep it, and that's something that should have been his to keep, but he let me keep it, and I still have it to this day. And that series ended like 5 years ago. And so when I found out this through Facebook, I literally was like, Mama, please let me go. And she didn't want to go at first, but I forced her.
Mom! Put all your business out there.
I was like, you gotta come with me, because this is like, who would have thought a connection from 5 years ago would bring me here? And so I want to learn how to draw for like actual marketing. And I have a poster of that Netflix film, I have the sketches, I have like all the little knickknacks that come from artistry. And so just to see that like on a poster, it's like, ooh, like it's so, I have goosebumps right now, sorry. But
so do we.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I really want to give it a good shot, and I promise you I'll still keep my application regardless.
Oh, hi. So I'm the aunt of my niece and my nephew are applying for the program, and I told my brother and his wife many years ago, your children are artists. They need to do this, and it was like what they didn't want to hear at all. Like they're going to go into art whether you guys support it or not. So here we are. And I just want to, it's more of a comment. I want to say I love what Netflix is doing. I love that there's different content from different countries, and the languages, and the marketing of that. I think it's really great. I think they're the first streaming service to do that. And I actually do diversity work, in my life. And I don't want to state what the obvious is here, but would one of you mind answering, or a couple of you, and telling all these like talented kids here in the room why we need people of color to produce content, to be in the storytelling, get positions of power, and on all sides of the promotion of those stories?
Sure. I'll say one thing about that. If you look at the content nowadays, there's probably more content than ever been produced, made by people of color than there's ever been. So I feel like with that content, there's a responsibility to market it in a certain way. And it's like, if there aren't people available that have a voice to market that, then we're doing a disservice. And I'll share one story with you. Our agency was approached to work on a documentary called I Am Not Your Negro. by James Baldwin. And the studio came to me specifically and said, Kenny, you know, we'll be real with you. We're not sure about this title. We're not sure how to address this title. And first of all, I appreciate that, because a lot of times a studio will come to you with very clear directives. And this studio was vulnerable enough just to say, hey, we're not sure like what to do. And I think for me and for our voice, from our perspective, we were like, well, Baldwin was really bold, and we need to be bold. And we were able to we made that title 90% of the poster. And they went for it, and they showed it to the filmmaker. And that's the poster. And in our studio, we have, when you come into the lobby, there's 3 posters that are up. And 2 of them change, like, depending on what we've done. But I'm Not Your Negro doesn't change. It stays there, it doesn't move. Because it's a reminder of me of why it's important for us to be involved. So.
I actually have a question also about the application process for the people in the room. I notice on the application, there's an ask to create a video about the person's culture. And I wanted the panel to speak about the expectations for that video, like how high quality are you expecting it? What are you expecting in terms of culture for the people in here curious about what you're expecting for that portion?
I mean, with regards to expectations, I don't want to keep getting back. There's no booklet to be like, if you hit these things, these are the exact things you're looking for. I think that's very important. What's going to be very, very important to the committee is being authentic and showing what this means to you and how you interpret the question. I know that's like me throwing it back on you like that, but that is the process is meant to be very open-ended to see how people interpret the questions and how they are going to express themselves along those lines. So that would be my main piece of advice, would just be as honest about what this means to you and how to get that across. And again, we're not expecting everyone to have to be ultimate finished video editing skills and it to be perfect. What will be the point of the program if it was already perfect, you know what I mean? So it's less about technical absolute proficiency and more about, again, showing and demonstrating as much as possible yourself, your background, your creativity, your drive to be in this industry, etc.
So if someone doesn't know how to use an editing program, but they're able to tell the story in a different way, that could still fulfill the requirement.
Yep, you can use your phone.
Hello, my name's Kenny.
Yep.
I really want to be in this program.
Yeah. Say a little bit.
No, but you know, that's what it is, that's what it is. You know? Yeah. So yeah, that's Mark's point.
You can use your phone. It doesn't have to be polished. Yeah. It doesn't have to, it's just, how do you express yourself?
How do you express yourself, exactly.
Yeah. Do you want to take one more?
Thank you all for being here. The collaboration or the partnership that I'm seeing out here today impresses me quite a bit. My question to you is, it sounds like this is a pilot program, and I am 100% sure that you're going to succeed. So is this something that you'll continue doing for other kids who are not quite yet 18?
Yeah, the goal is to continue this on a yearly basis, for sure. We're kicking it off this year with this first cohort, and the goal is to continue to, like as Kenny mentioned, continue to create space and pathways for people of color to come into this industry. So absolutely.
So it will be 18 students every year, or
for now, we'll see. We haven't really decided if it's going to increase, but like, you know, that's my dream. I think that's probably the dream of everybody here, for sure. Here's the thing. If you're excited, if you're passionate, I really encourage you to apply, right? I know it takes some bravery. I know it takes a lot of heart, but if you have that passion, that's what we're asking for. And so thank you all for your time.